go for landing.
Click the circles to the beat. Circles. Click. Circles. Click. Circle.
Okay, there we go. Do your thing.
Hello there.
We're so
Didn't really
good
work
at
very
this.
well.
Holy shit. Okay.
Did not work as planned.
Apparently, I had the track muted on OBS as well. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, welcome back to the CirclePeople podcast, and today we'll talk about mapping. And we do have our special guest this time, and as well, Toy, my co-host. You can probably see the dog
Hello.
picture over here.
I'm too. I don't have a webcam.
Feels bad. And of course, we do have Pishifat and Hunder, Blue Dragon, as our guests. So,
Hello.
you guys can
Hello. I
introduce
am
yourself,
Pishifat. Yeah.
and we can all start with Pishifat. So, why are you here?
I'm here because I'm a mapper, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah, and you're all obviously here to do the introduction. That was like the bait thing why I brought you here.
Well, yes, that was my real reason to be here. I can just leave now, probably.
And of course, we also have Blue Dragon.
Hello. Okay, I'm not Pishi to say hello there, but hello.
Hello. Okay, so what we wanted to talk about in this podcast would, like, the main thing would be, like, the history of mapping, like how it has changed during the years. But the first thing I'd like to say is congratulations
Mark.
to Pishy for winning the Mapper's Choice Awards. And I think it was like in the user category. So
Yeah, that thing.
that
I mean, it feels good to have won that, but at the same time, it's like I'm not really sure if I was fully deserving of it, because I think I won it because I'm the mapper who like gets their name out there more than other mappers. So
I guess.
it's like maybe that fits what the thing wanted it to be, like the Mapper's Choice Awards, but it seemed kind of like there's other people doing a good job too that just aren't getting the recognition.
Oh, yeah, so I didn't really look up to the words, so everyone could vote, right? Like, it was just a popular vote, or was it just mappers?
It was anyone who had either a ranked map or 100 kudosu, which are like
I remember seeing
a certain modding currency.
Okay, so the most important questions before we go into the topic is that how did you get started mapping in the first place? And then it's obviously directed to Pishy and Blue Dragon.
Okay.
You
You
go
wanna
first.
answer first?
Uh,
Okay, I'm gonna answer first. So yeah, as far as I can remember, it was like really early 29, I think. And my dogs don't fucking start barking. Okay, anyway. I was really new into the OSU thing, and back in the day, it was most of the community was like people who really liked the EBA games and the also DS games, which were pretty cool. I guess I didn't really play the Japanese ones. And holy fucking shit, my dog won't fucking start barking. Okay, anyways, uh, I, my biggest inspirations were the EBA maps, and when I started mapping, I was like 10 years old. I had no idea of what I was doing. I literally had no idea. Like I didn't know what BPM was, so I just slapped notes into the editor and I just hoped it was good. Back then, the community had a system which, like, there was bubble ranks, but there was also nuking maps, which was when a map was so bad it couldn't get into ranking in its current state. And my map got the world record of nuking. It got nuked within like 20 minutes after submission.
sounds good, dude.
That really encouraged me a lot. And after that, I started talking to the mapping community. I started talking to people. Why is my map so bad? And like the community was really supportive because, I mean, it was a small community. People wanted to share their knowledge. And after a while, I started getting into it. And I started making easier stuff that I could play since I wasn't really that good of a player. And after that, I started seeing the famous Ronald McDonald map and other maps by Raking, which were like Emerald Sword and other things. But after that, I took some inspiration and I just started mapping things like Bands Forever, which was my most famous map after a while. Uh, it was Band Forever and Revolution Death Squad from last year, which were the most famous map of 2010. And then after a while, just continued to map hard stuff and stuff that got me famous. And that's it. I guess the rest of this history is like basically what everyone knows. I mapped Blue Dragon, I mapped Big Black, I mapped other stuff. But overall, the beginning is what is most interesting, I guess.
Eh,
And
fair
that's all.
enough. That's been quite a journey indeed.
Yeah.
From
After
Beat
that
Agents
first map,
to
yeah.
us, so that's pretty old school. Like, I think the majority of people haven't even played Beat Agents in the first place, including me. I didn't even like. I played Guitar Hero at that time. Okay, that was like, I was like 10 when that game got released. I was really
I'm just
young.
wondering what year was your first map made? Like you said, we were 10, but when was that?
I think it was. I submitted my first map, the one that got nuked. It was January 29, I think. Yeah.
Of what year?
Uh, yeah, 2009.
Oh, I thought you said
So yeah,
January
so
29th. Sorry.
29. Yeah, sorry, I'm used to I have poor English. Anyway,
That's
That's
like
fine.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like at the
yeah,
time,
I was 10 years old.
I was like
I was
12,
12.
11 at the time. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like putting that into like perspective, like how old the game actually is kind of like mind-boggling. Like thinking about that because it recently just now started to get really popular. So, but yeah,
And now when I stopped talking and suddenly the dog stopped barking. I'm pretty sure it was Toy like the chat
yeah,
said.
it just toys sit in the background barking all the time.
Sorry, just got really excited.
Yeah, Toy wanted to know so much. He was like, "Okay, tell me." But he
I
was
don't-
barking, so
I don't have hands, so I don't clap. I just bark.
So Toy, you do have some like a little bit of experience when it comes to mapping, right? Like, is there anything you want to say like that is noteworthy regarding what you have done?
I haven't done a whole lot in my own like personal mapping. I do it every so often, but I hardly ever submit anything.
Oh, fair
And
enough.
yeah, I mean, I feel like I've gotten some sort of idea of how at least modern mapping works. Cause I just keep asking other people how to map, and then I get little tidbits of information here and there. So
Okay, so why we're on the topic like, oh yeah, learning how to map, which is actually a really hard thing to do. Just looking at it, like if you like just want to start mapping right now, it might be hard to like use like the learning process is really long. It just learning it by yourself can be fairly hard. But there's actually a system out there called the mentorship program that has been gotten like a lot better throughout the years. So if you're really interested in mapping, if you want to learn yourself to become better at mapping, you can sign up for that program. And there is just a bunch of really experienced mappers that will be there to help you, and the whole like a contest, like mapping contest within that small community, where like you assign points. Like it will be validated by these really good mappers, like this committee of people. And I think that's kind of like, from my perspective, that would be like the best way to learn mapping, because you can get so many opinions like from everyone, and improve yourself by listening to others is always a good thing.
yeah, I was part of the mentorship program for a little bit, and it's really, really cool because you get like one-on-one help from someone who's got a lot of experience. But aside from that, there's also, I believe, Spaghetti, the one who mapped both Seasons and Defenders and hosted the Boogie set. he has his own Discord for standard mapping, and there's a bunch of people there. He's like the host, and there's a bunch of ranked mappers there, and there's a bunch of text channels for different kinds of help. Like there's patterns, sliders, rhythm, whatever you need help with, and you can just post your own map. And I'm sure people would be very happy to give you some beginner's tips on
Right.
whatever you need.
So that's an open like public Discord.
Yeah, everyone's free to join that, but
Okay,
it's a lot less personal.
Okay, fair enough. Can like a mod or someone just post the link in the chat so people can see it for those who are interested? If you want to see it
Let me
or
look for it while you
All right.
continue.
So let's move into the main topic, the history of mapping. How has it changed? I do know like the time difference between us is pretty large. Like Pishi and I started like knowing about the game around the same time, and he started to map like a year later. And then Honduras been here since he was like 10. So it's really going to be interesting to see like your guys' opinions. But let's start from the early days. Like how was it back then? That was like unique for like that specific time period.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna start with it.
It's like Peppy Maps. Peppy Maps.
Yeah, I wasn't there in 2007, but
Yeah.
as far as I read in the forums and stuff, it was mostly Pepe and his friends and some other people who were interested in the game. And it had the idea that I talked about the Elite Beat 8 thing. It was kind of like all of the people there pretty much played the Elite Beat 8 game, and they wanted to put the songs that they liked into maps. Like they wanted to turn them into maps that they could play and other people could play. That was pretty much all of the thought process around 2007, 2008, which is why most people in that time mapped like authentic maps and kind of. I mean, in 2007, no one really knew how to map aside from DJ Pop and some other people who actually knew what they were doing. But in 2008, at least early 2008, some mappers actually got like some really interesting and different ideas, like Rhodes, James, Alazif, and I think Darihuka joined around that time as well. They made a really big difference because their maps weren't exactly symmetric or just nodes thrown around like most early.
It was
early
just
maps.
linear, like it was just like in straight lines. Like
Yeah, pretty much.
It didn't like go around. Like it wasn't dynamic at all. It was just circle, 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 slider, circle, circle, circle.
Yeah,
slider.
approach rate 10 and OD 10 and circle size 7, stuff like that.
Also-
yeah.
And AR wasn't even a thing back in days. It was like OD, AR, like in one.
Yeah, it was the same. Yeah, it's the same thing. But okay, after that, the people I mentioned, James and Darihuka, they kind of brought something new, which was called flow, and people were actually amazed. Like they didn't really have to completely read the notes. They had to they could move their mouse and actually just play more. I don't know, something. It was easier in a way. People actually didn't need to put as much effort into reading the maps. They could actually the maps actually look nicer because maps like Red Sign and Bad Apple from James and some of the James Seesaw maps and the entire Gojo Kai project, which is the Secret 7, I think. These maps actually made what I like to call the first revolution of mapping. They were something that changed completely the style, and after them, the entire mapping scene kind of changed a lot. Most mappers were inspired by that and started making maps like
so
that.
essentially, they were the ones that kind of molded like how mapping
Yeah,
actually was
pretty much.
supposed to work.
Yeah, they made the first style that was actually different from EBA style, and that's why everyone gives them so much credit. Like James is on the Hall of Fame of also with 2 other people. So that's pretty much it.
Well, they
from
totally does deserve it, of course. Like that's a huge feat to be able to like shape something that later like transpires is snowballed into something of its own. So we kind of moved from this like static to this more visual style where everything was like visually pleasing. Everything looked symmetrical and was just like looked good on the screen. So I guess that kind of like the next point that we should talk about, like the era of symmetrical mapping, I guess. Which was kind of when the game started to get a lot of, like, it was kind of like at the point where the game started gotten some, like, oh yeah, this is rhythm game. You can click circles, and it looks cool. It was kind of that point where the community started to build up. So I think most people, including I, kind of grew up with this like symmetrical style kind of mapping where everything was just visually pleasing, but it was also like copy, paste, that kind of mapping style. So I guess in its own, it was a bit simpler in a sense, and it didn't have to care too much about the rhythm. Like it was just look nice, and that was about it, I guess. So
That is the thing that I really don't like about playing a lot of those older maps by like Andrea and people like that, where they pretty much base everything on symmetry and rhythm is like secondary. It really hurts.
yeah,
It hurts.
like especially if you use the current mapping style, you don't really like look at like, oh yeah, look at these circles. You more like just react to it. And if you play this older map and you entirely revolve around your reaction time based on the music, you're fucked. It doesn't work like that, really.
Yeah.
Like it was focus you, like it was still at this reading era where you had to read and focus on the notes.
Yeah, what kind of happened there? It was around 2010, and there was a huge discrepancy, I would say, between Western mappers and Eastern mappers. The Western mappers were people like Nochinta, Random Gibberish, Larto, and like Metal Mario, and they really liked the symmetry mapping. The kind of, it was like EBA style, but making it better. It was making them more consistent, making them more like playable for people who were playing on PC. But their ideas were kind of just copy paste this entire section and make it exactly the same in another place of the song, even though sometimes it doesn't fit or it just keeps being boring. It was consistent, but really boring, and that's why they kind of failed. And Chinese mappers started making more interesting maps after that.
It kind of died out fairly quickly, but yeah, like Toy, since you've been doing this kind of thing where like, let's play all the right maps, if you're like doing it from the start, like how long have you gone through like the maps thus far, and how have you experienced like the changes like that you have probably noticed throughout like different maps, like through different periods?
Well, you know how in the website when you click on like beat map packs, you can click on every single one, it'll show which ones you've cleared and whatever. I can't find a beat map pack where I haven't played at least one map from it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've seen like maps from every sort of era of the game.
Yeah,
but
didn't you get like the torrent? Like, was its forum like, oh yeah, every ranked map, and it was like 6 different torrents, like 15 gig
it
each?
took me like over a week to actually download every map, and I was just sitting there like, all right, let's import them. But yeah, it started off like back in like 2007. There were different slider algorithms, and so sliders back then were pretty ugly. Slider shapes really had no way of like going.
No, they were
My biggest
fairly
pet
like
peeve
linear,
is like some of them were linear, but if they ever tried to curve them, they just looked
yeah,
like
they looked
trash.
like jagged,
because
like this.
because the white ticks acted like red points do now, so they would be very, very jagged like curves.
Oh yeah, that's also very pleasing. By the way, you should move to Sweden. I can download 100 gigs in around 1 hour, so it wouldn't take too much time for me to download all the maps. But yeah, continuing on. So it was after like this kind of symmetrical kind of mapping style that we kind of started to see that linear patterns or like linear everything. Like everyone was so linear back then because it sort of started out like that, and when it got more symmetrical, it was like more visually pleasing as well to have it fairly linear. But right now, it started to become more dynamic. Like we're seeing different patterns, we're seeing so much difference. And like, when was the point where this kind of started and kind of got into like this is the meta of mapping?
Well, I wasn't actually around for 2011, but I know that like one thing really changed around that time, which was like how people just composed a rhythm. Basically, before you'd see a lot of nonsensical rhythm, as I've already talked about, but then in 2011 there became this thing like people figured out how sliders work a little better. Like they already knew, but they knew how to utilize it more, so things could be more intuitive. But those things are like Galvanizes Gold Dust. You know that map, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that map. It's one of the first maps to really utilize slider ends just being on not important sounds, so that everything could be really rhythmically intuitive. So you'd have, I think it's pretty much what all modern maps do now. They have like half beat gaps between every object, and like usually when there would be a full beat gap between objects, they'd put a 1/2 beat slider, because then it's easier to figure out rhythm at that point, because the map kind of plays itself with sliders.
And right now
That
you
was a
can
thing
kind of
that really
like
came
play
up around
around
then.
with the slider velocity as well, compared to like back in days, where it's like followed. Or like it looked just very weird. Like when you have like a high like velocity slider and it just didn't work out up until like the recent, I think it was like 2014, I believe. Like around that time.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
When was it like when like high velocity sliders started to become a thing, like fast sliders? Like before they were used.
Well, I mean, they've always been used. It's just
Yeah, I remember them from like 2000 and people using 2x BPM sections that were completely unpredictable and sucked so much.
the thing that they had to make unrankable because it was kind of.
Oh yeah, I
Completely
remember
dumb.
that back
That was
in the
terrible.
days. Okay, so of course I do apologize if some of my fights are wrong. Like this is most like my experience with the game, so I'm not that experienced.
No,
with
no,
mapping.
it's actually like technical mapping also brought like again these like
I guess it's
fast
kind of like
sliders.
the flow that kind of changed that made it more doable and more accessible, like with high velocity sliders. Because before, like it was kind of like, oh yeah, they just throw it in randomly, and it's kind of like need to play the map before, because otherwise it's like you just show it. But right now it's more consistent, I guess. That's kind of what I wanted to get out there, I guess.
Yeah, some people liked to use the storyboards to signal changes in like slider velocity, like
Oh yeah,
that Polish map by Bass Hunter.
Oh yeah.
Base
Focus check.
Oh, that map.
Swedish Pride.
Yeah, it's
hmm
something like that.
Like there'll be a storyboard thing that says speed up, and then it's like a really fast slider, or another map where it's like it says hold in the background, and it's a really slow
it's
slider.
Love Lab Poison something.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, nowadays it doesn't make much sense because everyone plays with background dim, so no
Well, there
one
was no
can see
background
that.
dim at the time, so it was okay.
Yeah, exactly. But like continuing what Pishi said about Gold Dust, there were some other maps from that time, include besides Natake, which was a really great mapper as well. But Sheer mapping style, he mapped Solar and Pulse, which were two noise star maps, which complemented what Gold Dust did, which was the DNB mapping style that made like half beats really popular, and this kind of style made what continuing like the James Revolution. Now I would call it the second revolution, because now everyone wanted to map like that with consistent half beats and maps that wouldn't really care about symmetry or looks, or sometimes wouldn't also care much about rhythm. It was mostly half beat spam and just like that. But it was much better than anything we could see before that.
And I still remember back in the days, like 300 pp was like, that's godlike, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like you're out of your mind. Like if you compare it to the PPV2 system, Of course, I have like PPV1 and TP back in days, but like 300 today would be insane at that time because the maps were entirely like they were harder in a different way. Like we didn't really have AR decimals that couldn't play around with like if we had higher BPM. So then everything was just so much dense, like Atamanataiso, like high BPM maps. They were so dense, and that might like made them hard to read in a sense compared to other maps that were lower BPM. So like these harder maps that were like high BPM, AR9, they were so dense, like you saw so many circles, and it kind of like built up that like you had to learn it. Like today we are seeing like most of the old players actually being fairly comfortable with these kind of maps, but newer players tend to struggle with these maps because it's more like you have to read instead of, as I said before, rely on reaction and pattern recognition, which is kind of like how we play the game right now.
Yeah, about the AI. Okay, my dog started barking again. Anyways, exactly when I unmuted the mic. Anyways, something not really relevant, but about this AR thing. When Masterpiece got ranked, it had like a few FCs, like 10 FCs, and the map is AR8. So nowadays, no one can read that map properly, except for a few people. But back in the day, it was like, okay, you can play that map, you have good aim. It was nothing about reading. But when Cookiezi got like the Hidden Heroic FC on Masterpiece, everyone was like, okay, he's hacking. It's impossible to read AR10. No human can do that. It's too fast. It's a cheated play. So let's just report it and move on. And now when you see the rankings, like there are more Hard Rock FCs than Nomad FCs on the map. So it just tells you how much changed from that time.
No,
So it's just
'cause,
really
like,
interesting.
If you had AR10 on the map back then, you were like, you're nuts. That's stupid. No one can do that.
I remember some like really old map thread was like, you can't use OD9 on this map because no one can physically click OD9 correctly. Meanwhile, every map now is OD9 pretty much.
Wait, what's the hit window? Like not the hit window, but like the closing and like how long would the circle be visible on AR10? It's like 400 milliseconds, right?
I don't know the exact values,
40,
but
no, I don't know.
it's doable.
I know that 10.3 is like 300 something. But like it can't tell you like right now it was like such a huge difference. Like AR8, AR9, it was such a big gap, and these decimals kind of these go so well hand in hand with the new like kind of dynamic mapping system where you can easily associate like specific maps with specific like ARs. Like it's fairly popular to like when you go above a specific like BPM when you go for these hard maps is that you often go for like 9.3 or 9.2 and in some rare cases even 9.1, and it kind of tells you like how much you can play around with it to kind of like to fit the song and the map, like compared to back in days where everything was just so many things on the screen. So yeah, should we move forward it? Let's start with kind of 2014 and talk about PP mapping and how that
Okay,
got
this one is for you guys.
So
I don't know much about the subject, so it's just for you.
so it was Dai, and then it was which map was it now again?
Pagokoro.
Yeah, Kogokoro and Dai. Those two maps came around like they come around at like the similar time, and that is when people understood like you can abuse the PP system when it comes to mapping by like before like remember like the TP system where they have like aim, reading, like just like everything in one. If you can perfectly balance a map to have like similar levels, you can easily abuse it to a certain level where like a specific range, like let's say around 400 pp, that this can be way easier like compared to other maps like 300 pp. So because you like so well like balance it to a point where it's just ridiculous.
Well, mappers before those two maps, before Dai Genome Minis, mappers already knew about this like PP stuff, but it's just like most mappers didn't really want to do it because they knew like people are going to shit on them if they do that.
Yeah.
But then it's like you see the result of Genome where like everyone plays it. It's like, is the hate worth getting all the plays? People play the map, people enjoy the map, you know. It must be worth it. So then it became a lot more of a prominent thing with making maps.
I kind of like hating it also made it infamous in a sense. And then we have those PP mappers who's like, ugh, let's just do this. I know, PP, give me. So
Well,
I
I
guess,
mean-
like compared to like mappers' perspective and players' perspectives is like two entirely different things. Since mappers can be like, oh, this guy's trying to get famous because he's abusing the PP system. Because pay will play the map if they get more PP. And back in the days, you played a map because, oh, I like this map. This is a fun map. But that was kind of thing like when the PP era got into place. Like everyone just going like, I want the top spot, and like everyone just went like at each other with like those maps. And mappers were like, let's do more, and it just kind of escalated, I guess. So what's your opinions on the current PP meta that we have right now in terms of mapping?
Well, PP mapping, I think it's just like in the modern day, it's like it's just the way people learn to map because it's just that's what you see mostly.
That's
I have a dog too now. Did it freeze? Great. Anyway,
So sweet.
Okay, that frozen frame was great. I have to say that. Sorry.
I pretty much me and like most people around my time, which was we skipped me during like the introduction thing. I started mapping at like the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, and around that time, like I was still learning to map, but I saw like these other maps, the really popular maps that just give PP, as like I just saw them a lot. So it's like I get influenced by that pretty easily, and that'll make me just want to make more maps in that same way because I know it'll do something well for me in the mapping scene. So a lot of my maps, especially early on, I tried to focus on just like making things. I tried to focus on making things playable, but my thoughts of playable were very distorted, I think, and I think people playing my early maps would agree with that. But that was like a really main thing for me to focus on, just trying to make things as comfortable and simple as possible, which made things that's I think how a lot of people learn how to create maps, trying to make things simple, because that's what's supported by like what people prefer to play, also with what people mod in maps, I guess. Because if you do stuff controversial, you're going to be like, no one's going to like it in modding. People modding want things to be simple, I suppose.
Wait, did I screw up the Twitch names? I'm confused.
Did you?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not on Blue Dragon 3, I guess.
Oh. Okay. That's I'm really good at this. What is it? Is it just like on Blue Dragon, or what is it? Oh, okay, let's not care about that. We will. Someone properly linked your Twitch channels. All right, I screwed up. So,
Yeah, I'm
take
on
it
Twitch
from me, but-
chat anyway.
just go and follow these people. They're amazing. But oh well. Continuing on. So, okay, I guess I can add my kind of point of view when it comes to PP mapping. And of course, I started right before this happened. And then this is kind of coming into place. Before, like, all these no more people were like, you could see no more people in top 100s back in days before PP mapping was a thing. And when this thing, like, when this became a thing, those people who like played a lot of DT before, they were like, oh yeah, let's just try this. And it just gave them a lot of PP. So that was the point where mods, like especially like DT, became a thing where it just gives you a lot of PP. Of course, there's still a lot of old maps that gives a lot of people, like a lot of PP, but as we've seen, there's only one or two players who can play those maps with DT because they're so insanely hard to read. And they're so awkward when it comes to like tapping as well.
A big reason
Yeah, I
Double Time
mean-
was actually popular was just because most maps early on had lower OD than they do now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Insanes in the past were OD 7 or 8, but now it's more like OD 8 or 9 for Insanes.
Yeah, and
so
before
the hit
that there
windows
was
like really big.
PPV1 as well. So we were kind of used to PP mapping, but not in the same way because like it was PPV1. It was basically HD DT, like normal or hard maps, and PPV2 were like people intentionally making maps that gave PP.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was much less abusable, but yeah, PPV2 didn't help much.
PPV1 was bad for like determining someone's ability at the game,
Yeah.
but PPV2
Yeah.
sucks for mapping stuff.
The DP system was superior. Okay, so now when we're moving into like 2015, there was here like, oh yeah, PP maps were everywhere. Like everyone played them. But it was also at the end of the year we started to see other maps that started to become a thing that kind of translated into 2016. That is also a thing now. And it was
Other
kind
maps.
of, yeah. So before it was like everyone played like Hard Rock, like 400 PP. Oh, that's insane, dude. Congratulations. You are a really good player. But then at the end of the year, we started to see like a bunch of like 6.5, like closer to like 7-star maps. And people were like, huh, this is interesting. And as well as like as the map, like the PP system or like the PP meta kind of grew more also into like when there are like decimals and like when people started to learn higher AR, we started to see, oh, 500 PP. Like, what? Okay. And then also at the year, we also started to see these really insane, like those and like these really insane maps started to get qualified or ranked, which was people like, I still remember the reaction from people when we started to see the beginning of like the high star maps. And that was completely insane. Like the reaction from the community was huge. Everyone was shouting at each other, like, this is insane. Some people say like, oh yeah, this is just bad. It was like so many people throwing their opinions at each other. So I just want to know like, how do you guys think about this? Like the kind of increase in use difficulty in general.
Yeah, I remember like there was the time there were like 3 7-star maps ranked. It was Airman, Image Material, and Freedom Dive. That was it. No
Stay
harder
gay.
maps, nothing. And yeah, pretty much. So then after a while, I noticed everyone started making hard maps, Mazering and Fart and everyone. People just started bursting out and ranking every kind of hard map. And I kind of got lost there. Everyone was making 7-star, 8-star, 9-star now because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Before you were
It's
known
popular,
for
I
making hard
guess.
maps, so it's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
like see like the difference now between like back in days. Before like your maps, they are insane. Like you're out of your mind. They are so hard. But then now we're seeing so many different maps that are like, I know, like 3 steps above like the maps compared to back in days for like those maps that you map. So that's insane.
yeah, I mean, like I was used to playing like 5-star maps, 6-star maps, and now suddenly, if you want to get some PP or something, you have to play like 7.5 stars, and I don't know, man. It's just too hard for me right now.
Okay,
I don't remember when it was, but when did like the star rating system actually change? Because I remember like
Oh.
Airman, Freedom Dive, and Image Material, they were all like they were just all 5-star maps because there was nothing past
yeah.
that.
It was near the
It's
point
fun.
where PPV2 got implemented when they
Yeah.
also changed how stars worked.
So,
It was
hey,
like 2014,
correlation.
Yeah.
right? Ish. Like
Yeah,
early
2013, I think.
Yeah.
Around that.
Yeah,
It's
like
yeah.
end of
it was
2013,
kinda
very
nice.
start of 2014. Also, that's
Yeah.
right when PPV2 was implemented, and that's about when I
Yeah.
started playing like really seriously.
It was really necessary because more and more maps with like the difficulty spreads were like easy, normal, hard, insane, extra, 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 and like
That's
there were
me.
maps like Tema no Taiso and Kakuzeto Thanatos and other maps that I don't know. But anyway, and all of them had a limit of 5 stars on difficulty. It was the same limit. So hard diffs already kept that kind of 5 star. So it was like hard diffs and freedom dive were exactly the same difficulty value. So it was really necessary for a change.
Yeah. So it was like around that time people started to form and kind of adapt to like the new mapping styles, and it also ruined, like a lot of people ruined like these can't play all the maps anymore because they're so different. So I just want to hear from Toy, like how did you think about this new change in terms of like mapping and just people going like above the bar in terms of how hard a map should be, like compared to like back in the days?
Well, I first like started really getting into the game in 2014 when PPV2 had just barely like started, and Ruruchi was like number one by like a long shot, just because he had been playing random DT maps that no one had even tried or thought was possible, and now it was given like the correct values of how good he was at the time. And I mean, back then, like 400 pp was pretty insane. I remember HVic started getting, like back as when he was Snow White, he was getting 400 pp scores on TV size maps, and that seemed like incredible.
Oh yeah.
Like he, but it's people started to learn how to make maps more like seem more difficult without them actually like being more difficult.
Yeah, kind of take advantage of the
Mhm.
PP system. And also,
Yeah.
that was the point Raffis also came in, and I was like, wait, is this Nico? Who is this guy? Like, people are so confused that was the
Raffis is this is probably like off topic, but Raffis's like climb to like top 3 was pretty incredible to watch, because it
Yeah.
felt like one day he like broke top 50, and then a week later he was top 10, and then now, hey, wow, no one can really challenge him.
No, but that was probably one of the more, like, people getting, like, from coming up from nowhere. Is kind of just shooting the way up there to the top in mere weeks.
But at the same time, it's people like him that also pushed mappers to keep making harder and harder
Yeah, of
maps.
course.
To like, well, let's see what he can actually pull off. And then he just kept double timing harder and harder, like extras or insanes or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a point I remember in either 2015 or 2016 where people were kind of getting annoyed that there weren't very many 7-star maps being ranked. Like, people were creating hard maps, but none of them were getting really ranked. And then in 2016, just basically more 7-star
nowhere.
maps than had ever been. Yeah,
Yeah, like
that
out
had
of
ever been
nowhere,
ranked before.
I still remember it was this month. Like, these stars started to rank these insane like maps, but I can't remember like which maps. But that was kind of the point where people were like, "What is going on? What is happening?" And people were so confused at first. But right now, it's just we have ISOR maps now, so
It just seems normal.
yeah. But back in the days, it was so out of place, and people were so confused. Why why was this happening? Why do people rank these maps now? And we kind of got the answers for that already. But as you guys remember, like HHR, like Azer, like he was like one of the top players, and he was considered to be a god back in days. Like, oh, 430 PP. Oh, 500 PP, that's completely mind-boggling. Like, he's the best player in the world. And now people is, that's good, I guess.
Because remote control used to be the highest PP play of all time at like 530 something.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I remember everyone playing that map. Like, everyone wanted to get the, like, PP
That was like
from that map.
because of what Cookie Z had done in 2014 when he DT'd it. It was like considered the ultimate, like, you are the best at DT if you can do this.
Yeah.
And only HVic and Ruruchi could.
Yeah, because no one played like that. No one played like that at the time. And it's kind of like this new mapping style that kind of forced people to go for this more like reaction-based and pattern recognition kind of, is like react to everything. And I guess that's why we are seeing so many people that now have can do that map compared to back in days when it was
Yeah.
like 2 people.
Because that's what people learn is difficult, and that's what they practice, and that's what they try. From the if the reason I play what I do is because I started playing the game on old maps, and I just played a bunch of random rhythms and tried everything. But I'm seeing a lot of new, and it's not wrong either. It's just I see a lot of newer players that see, hey, these are what the top people are playing. This is the style of mapping, just jumps and reaction and fast clicking, and that's what they get good at. And it's not it's also not inherently wrong to oh, these people don't know how to play other style maps, or they're only for PP, because it's just that's just how they kind of grew up playing. This is what's considered hard, and they want to be good, so they try the hard things.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, okay. There are maps that are insanely hard and aren't really PP, such as the Furioso Melodia map. I don't know how you pronounce that, but anyway.
Yeah.
It's a map. Some of these maps are actually maps that test your ability in every kind of skill, and that's why some people like them so much. They aren't PP. They aren't forced. They are just something you can play nicely and test your skills. And even though they aren't 8 stars or 9 stars, but people
It's
actually
also-
like that.
It's also a very just tangible way to see your progress. 1 week you could try it and you could barely pass it, and then maybe try it a month later and now you got a B on it. And it's just a really easy way for people to watch themselves progress in the game. So it's also a reason why people will try really, really hard things instead of getting consistent on only decently hard things, because they see progress.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
we're on the note of this, I kind of wanted to mention this is probably a really vague thing when I mention it this way, but awkward patterns slash patterns placement slash patterns. So
Worse.
What do you consider an awkward pattern first?
something this is really as I said, it's a really vague term, but I guess it's just something that is really awkward for most people to use aim, the placement of the circles. Most mappers goes for oh, this is a natural movement. But sometimes we see those maps that are either really gimmicky, really slider heavy with a lot of velocity. We're seeing some maps where oh, if you hit this, you're lucky. You're lucky. And
I
that
guess-
just shows that it's
I guess
Yeah,
you're trying
it's-
to explain about obtuse angled jumps,
Yeah.
or I guess what it's called anti-flow, where you expect your movement to go one way, but instead it will go a complete opposite way, or spacing that isn't entirely consistent.
yeah, basically.
Yeah,
So-
which is why I kind of like playing these old maps with mouse and stuff, because you don't have to put effort into jumping your mouse around or a tablet around and just following the flow. Older maps are something you have to read and understand how to play, which is why I find them so much fun compared to newer maps. So
I
it's
think-
something that you could keep out.
They'll make awkward patterns comfortable though. It's just that most maps now, you're expecting you're going to be playing something comfortable, right? So then when you see something theoretically awkward compared to that, it's going to be really weird. But if you design a map around all these awkward sort of situations, it just becomes natural. So it's nothing's really awkward if you just design your map around it.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm seeing a lot with really now mapping, super modern mapping, as in very recently ranked or even unranked maps. Different mappers who are really, really trying to experiment on how they can make really what's conventionally awkward into what's playable and actually pretty fun.
A
In
good
terms of
example for me will be dopamine. That is
Yeah.
It feels so
Yeah.
natural. I know
Sorry.
it's so weird.
Most
Uh,
people like that map, but I just can't stand it.
Yeah, and I don't mean to like, uh, I guess stroke your ego, but like Pishy's making like a lot of really innovative maps in terms of how stuff is gonna play without while also like
Yeah,
making
it's
it
true.
like normal. Handsome has a lot of unranked maps that are trying really cool, innovative new things.
Soon to be loved maps.
Yeah,
Soon.
pretty much.
He's got the
Or
star priority.
what was that map? The Nobore, the Karen map that got
Yeah.
the Grand MCA award
Mhm.
this year of last year. Like that's very different to what people consider to be modern mapping, but now it's slowly becoming what is modern while also being considered weird, awkward, or gimmicky.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
A lot of Karen's maps are like that now, actually. He's
Yeah.
like completely switched his way of mapping.
And it's really cool. People
map.
like it.
Yeah. I do like it.
And we're also seeing so many mappers now compared to back in the days. Like around this time, like there's just so many mappers out there. And as we said, like there's also a lot of aspiring mappers who have started like the previous year and they're getting help
Oh,
by,
yeah.
as we said before, like just ask people for help. They would love to help you. I would say that I would talk with a lot of people within the mapping community. Like I'm not essentially familiar with the whole community in general, but I've heard from a lot of people that they are fairly nice. Just asking for their opinions and they will love to give them.
Yeah, it's also really cool to have a lot more new mappers because it just gives a lot of opportunity for new and creative ideas that can be explored by other mappers and just share information with each other because there's just so many more resources for new mappers to really like get over that really steep learning curve of like how to actually make a map. Because I remember my first map, I tried to map live music, and you know how much of a timing disaster live
Bad
music can
idea.
be.
Yeah.
It was like a jazz song. It was just all bad.
It's all over the place.
But like now people can get like the help and resources they need in a pretty efficient manner just by other like newer mappers or just other like really good mappers or mentorships or discords or mod help or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah,
modding
I mean-
V2 will help that as well.
I mean, just look at the rookie of the year, like the 09 Kami,
Yeah.
that guy. He just took Halloween's maps, made them look more something personal, like it was actually his map and not just Halloween's map copied. And it looked fine. It looked great. Like it's a Akiyama Uni, I think, map, I don't know, which was really amazing. I really love it. It was kind of I guess it was my favorite map of 2016. And it was just amazing. And it was by a rookie mapper. I think it was his first ranked map.
Yeah,
And it was just great.
Kenpen Tasogare.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a fun map. I love that one.
It's
And,
really fun because,
like, it's fairly
lots of styles.
interesting to see like these new mappers getting out there like with their own personal like kind of thing at the start, because most people, they take inspiration from most mappers and kind of play around with it, and eventually they get like their own thing that they are known for. But I know like it's so easy, like you can play a map blind. Just don't look at the one who made the map. And I think a lot of, at least like the big mappers, you will be able to tell like, oh, who mapped this song, because they got their own quirks or like things that they kind of take advantage of and use in the maps that are kind of like, oh, I've seen a similar thing in another map. This is probably made by this guy. So it's kind of like now compared to back in the day, like now when you have such a dynamic kind of like mapping system, you can be more personal and add your own things into the map that like you want to do yourself. As long as it's actually good, it can get ranked, I guess.
A lot of people like to draw inspiration from other mappers. They like I know Skystar very often will draw inspiration from RLC maps, and so many people draw inspiration from Skystar maps. Like I know Suki Nathan like very much has his own sort of style that's similar to those. But Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's I guess, sort of a relevant topic, but I don't want to like really go into it. Is the road of resistance, like inspiration, like whole thing, shebang, whatever. Like the difference between drawing inspiration from a map and like kind of pigeonholing yourself in an idea of how something can be mapped. Like you can draw inspiration of how a map should look and like patterns that you could use for different sounds, but you can also subconsciously tell yourself like this is the only way a certain thing can be mapped, when really like different sounds can be mapped in a variety of ways. Like I can give you mappers that would be able to map the same part of a song 5 different ways. But so I guess use inspiration from other mappers that you would enjoy and like try and emulate some of the things that they do, but also don't tell yourself that this is the only way that a certain like sound can be mapped or portrayed.
Yeah, just like play around with it for a bit, and eventually it will become natural, yes. And on the topic of that is that like when you see like, oh, people can map things differently, like take the same song and they'll do it differently. One thing that's also getting like fairly a lot of people tend to do nowadays is collaborations in like the same maps, and you can easily tell apart like specific parts of the map, like, oh, this is made by that person, this is made by that person, without actually destroying the flow, because it's more dynamic now. So as long as you got like tied together like the 2 points between this is where that ends, I'll start here and kind of like bullet from that, and that's fairly interesting to see, like how
sometimes that doesn't really work out though.
Yeah.
So I've seen like there's this mapper Garo. He maps stuff like very symmetrically, just like older style, but it's more modern than really old stuff. And then when he does collabs with other people, it's kind of awkward because the maps are just so different that it seems like they shouldn't be together at all.
Yeah, like it's so out
it's
of place.
conflicting.
Yeah, I guess in that sense it's not too good. But of course, like we also see some mappers who divide their maps up in parts and focus on like, in this section, I'm going to do that. In that section, I'm going to do that. And that's also fairly interesting compared to back in days. And that just shows you how dynamic maps can be, like Skystar, for example.
There was a discussion. Too. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, well, people have been doing that for a while. It's just people have been making it more obvious now, is what I think. Just the separating of parts thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was a discussion about how mapping styles were supposedly dying because of the PP meta, and that like in 2010 you could like, oh, this is James mapping, this is Shin mapping, this is Larto mapping, this is Natsume Ring mapping. Nowadays, like you can't really differentiate some mappers from others because they use the same style of flow mapping and kind of jumps. And people were discussing this about how it's a bit more generic, but it also happened that time, so it's not something I really worry about. Some mappers still can make a big difference with their own style. So yeah, it's not something I agree with totally.
Okay.
I mean, once people get over like once individual mappers, I mean, they get over like, oh, my maps, I've made the same sort of map over and over again. Maybe I should try doing something different. Once they get over that, they can make stuff that's actually interesting, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Monstrada's very early maps like had a very Sorry, are you trying to end it? Sorry, I'm just gonna keep talking while you try to end the stream. Monstrada's early maps all had a very similar feel to them in the way that he used a hex grid to map his like earlier stuff. But once he got like his newer stuff, he's probably one of the most creative mappers I've seen in terms of how like the ideas that he can have if he's just not trying to make a formulaic Monstrada map. But I feel like a lot of mappers can get stuck doing the same thing over and over again and not really try anything new because it just works. But
so
yeah, like okay, can go on.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to this today.
Okay, I think we should move on to one last point before we go ahead and ask our questions. And by the way, if you do have any questions before we start answering them, all you need to do is to make a tweet with the hashtag CircleTalk. We will make sure to answer your questions. So, speed ranking. What is your guys' opinions on speed ranking? Do you think it's good or bad? Like, is mods really required? And
I mean,
stuff like that.
I made a video about speed ranking that
Yeah.
covers exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, no.
I
but
think
you
speed
can-
ranking is
can bring
okay.
it up here again.
Okay. Speed ranking, I think speed ranking is okay so long as the map is okay.
Fair enough.
But it also means like if you try to speed rank without really trying to improve your mapping, you might just end up making the same thing over and over again, as we just talked about. Mods will eventually tell you like, okay, this is either too boring or you might want to try doing something different if you do the same thing over and over again. That's happened to me specifically.
Yeah, and like speed ranking always happened. Like it used to be worse because some of the guys responsible for ranking maps were like it was Circle Jerk, but in 2010. So basically, it happened, and it was worse because the maps weren't actually decent. They were really generic, and they were just speed rank this, speed rank that, speed rank that.
I mean, it might have been
Nowadays,
worse.
it is more controlled.
I think it might have been worse at that time too, because just like there was less manpower behind ranking maps, because now we've got like 70 people who can, maybe not 70 actually, more like 50 people who can rank maps, but back then it was a lot smaller of a group capable of doing that.
And of course, we
Yeah,
also have less
exactly.
mappers as well, and less maps to select
yeah,
from.
okay.
So it was like we need to get more maps out there. So the criteria, I guess, was kind of lower back in days. Okay, so
Well,
let's see. How many minutes do we have left? Okay, we have 50 minutes left. I think we should start moving into questions. So as I said before, if you do have any questions, make sure to tweet them with the hashtag CircleTalk. Okay, so in the meantime, we can kind of like, which maps do you guys think like define a specific era, like a really good example?
I already said Gold Dust.
I actually was making I wanted to make an article about that, and like exactly about the same thing, and I chose some apps to coincidentally it was the exact same thing, so let me get this thing here.
Right?
Because it's actually exactly what I wanted. So say talk about earlier than also mapping style. I would say Don't Stop Me Now is the best map to talk about EBA mapping. It's the Queen song everyone knows. I linked it in chat. Yeah, it has an amazing storyboard emulating EBA style, and it's just really great. It was mapped in 2009, but it's exactly what you would expect from an EBA map, and the storyboard just makes it great. It just makes it amazing. So can I continue, or am I gonna talk too much about that?
Yeah, that was a little bit too much. I used to like, oh yeah, mention the maps, and you kind of like 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna say.
Okay, but
All right.
Poised, are you ready? Okay, prepare some questions for us that we could answer. It shouldn't take too long. It's just a couple of seconds delay, so hopefully we should get some questions up here. But as I said, as you can see here below Pishy, all right, we have one here. What is the most unique or your favorite storyboard that you've seen in your time playing Osu, and why?
Most unique storyboard. There's that. I mean, storyboard that had an impact on me specifically was that Seether Fake It map. I think it's loved right now. That was a really old map though. That one I thought was pretty cool for its storyboard.
There's actually a kind of topic, but a website dedicated to showcasing really good storyboards called osb.moe, I think. It's by Kirby, the guy who makes Kirby Mix.
Kirby.
I linked it in chat. Yeah, and he's making this a great project. It's just storyboarding and making it more accessible for everyone. But specifically about maps, I really liked Open Window especially because I participated on it. But it was just amazing. But on a more recent map, I'd say New Beginnings from Tom Day. It's a really simple storyboard, and it's like it makes you the player ambiented. I'd say, I don't know how to say that in English, but it places the player in the song. Basically, it just makes you much more. It's immersive. I'd say it's an immersive storyboard.
One
It's
thing-
simple but really good.
The thing for me is that I kind of like the kind of meme side of storyboarding, where like, oh yeah, you take a skin with nothing on it, and then you score the song, and it's like Yule Beat or something. That's fairly interesting to see people play around with that. Like, obviously, it's meant for the memes, like Air 12 maps. For some reason, I don't know why people would do that, but it's still insanely hard to do. So, good for them.
And I'm thinking of those those maps that replicate other rhythm games through their storyboards.
Yeah,
those are cool too.
basically. So
Probably the best storyboards I've seen that were made through the actual like Osu like storyboard editor was the Jardo episode like series. Just like really crude drawings, but they're just really great storyboards in general.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Like have like old storyboards. Like those were wonderful. Like those.
Yeah,
like
Lardo and Jarby made some pretty great ones.
It's like really poorly drawn, but like the animation is like fairly good. But like they're so personal. Like they're so sweet and amazing at the same time.
Yeah. But like nowadays, now that we're using like coding for storyboards, I like pretty much anything Damne makes, like Black Sun Empire or Kung Fu Empire. Yeah.
Okay. So, Poise, can you hit us up with more questions? And if you haven't already, like I said before, tweet with the hashtag down below. Do you think the ranking should allow all types of map to be ranked? Imagine a new linear Digipop map looking for ranked.
They are rankable, just no one does it.
Yeah, that's...
You can
no
do
one
it.
does it well, I guess.
I guess some genres are fairly hard, like especially if you have like variables, like in terms of like BPM, like it changes all the time. That would be insanely hard to do.
Actually. I mean, yeah. Oh, Kento, you can.
I was just gonna say, like, no one really maps in that sort of style, but there are people trying to rank that sort of stuff. Like, I'll link it in the Twitch chat, but there's a map for the Kung Fury song called True Survivor. That's like an 08 style map, and it can be ranked. I think they're trying to get it ranked.
Okay, that's
no one really mods it.
08. 08. That's insane. All right, next question.
Yeah. Also, something else that I must add. I bubbled a map that was made in 2009, I think. And I bubbled it in 2014 or 15. I don't know when I was, I bet. But it actually got ranked, and it's a map submitted and made in 2009. And it's the exact same map, basically, with small changes. Made by King Cobra and other old mappers. And it got ranked. So it's possible, but no one really does it. And not many people are interested in modding these kinds of maps because they don't really know what to do.
Okay, so next question, and this is obviously directed to the map. Like, what is your favorite map that you have ever created? Like, it doesn't have to be ranked or anything. It's like your favorite map that you ever created.
That like we have created.
Yeah.
Right now, well, usually for me, it's just the last thing I made, the most recent thing. That's the most favorite thing. But out of like those last couple of things, this one I called. Or for Link Toste Segure's song Abnormalize. I think that one was pretty cool. Has a fancy gimmick.
All right. As for me, I don't know. Like, I had a really big issue with my maps. I used to hate my maps, but I mapped them anyway. But lately, I've started to like what I was mapping, and I've come to terms with many of my maps that I actually enjoy. But I would say the map I made, which is Hymn of the Unattainable. I don't know how to pronounce that because I don't speak English, but I linked it in chat. It's a really recent map I made, and it's something I really wanted to map. It's a song I really love,
Hey,
and I loved how it came out.
you
I'm
showed me this map, right?
I'm really looking to improve it more and more. It's still not ranked or finished, but it's a map. It's probably my own favorite map now. It's something I really loved mapping, and looking at it now as it is, it's probably my own favorite own map.
Okay, a little quick question for myself now that you came back. That do you guys ever get tired of a song that you like keep map because you have to listen to it all over again all the time?
I'm mapping a 1 hour song, so I got tired of that pretty fast. But
I can imagine.
Me too.
yeah, not really, to be honest. Maybe at first I did, but it's like I sort of got used to it and I sort of accepted it. It's not that bad anymore.
I guess. Okay,
I
next question.
mean, yeah, map because maybe. So it's a 1 hour album, and I still haven't finished it after 6 years because I just can't get to map this song. I don't know. I'm just tired of it. So yeah.
All the unforgiving feels not bad.
Yeah. Unforgiving was actually a collab, so it
I
was easier, I guess.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
I found that map you were talking about, Blue Dragon, the one that you bubbled like 5 years later.
Oh yeah.
Boost. Okay. Ken asks to Blue Dragon if
Hello.
it's true that Airman was mapped in less than 2 hours.
It was, I don't know, like Airman was a really funny story. It was like the last day of 2010, I think. And Zitrot came to me and said, hey, Sushi is remapping Airman, which is, it wasn't famous map from 2007 that people hated, but it was a classic. And Sushi's mapping Airman. So let's make a diff for fun and something. And I don't know, let's just make it. And I was like, sure, why not? And we collabed, but it was really quick. I think we finished it in a matter of like 3 or 4 hours. It was just random mapping. We didn't really put much effort into it, I admit. But we wanted to make it one of the hardest map of also at the time. It was going to be the challenge for the best players ever, and only the best of the best could pass it.
All right.
And we kind of sent the map to Cookiesy, and he got like a 900 combo run in one try. So it wasn't that much of a success, but still, it was really fun doing it.
Okay, I guess we can fit a couple more questions in here. Poist, do you have another one? It's like the anticipation. All right. What are you guys' ambitions for the future in or outside of us? So a little bit more personal, I guess.
Well, something that I want to do is just make it so people don't have to like, I don't know, people don't have to struggle so much with mapping, because that's part of why I've been making videos. It just seems like, because there's no way for anyone to learn how to map in the current way, because there's guides, but the guides all suck.
Yeah, because
Most
you're like,
times.
do this,
Most-
do that, do that. It's not like, oh, you could
Not
do
even that.
this or do that.
It's more like nobody wants to read the guides, because the guides are just so, no one wants to read.
Yeah.
If there's videos up, people will pay attention more. You can
Yeah.
see what's going on better than like text and pictures, and that's something I want to do. It's something I want to have happen. But that also means like people, if there's people learning to map the way that I'm saying, they might not really evolve much, I guess, because the things that I say in my videos are very simple and broad.
I guess. But yeah, if you haven't already, you can go ahead and check out this YouTube channel. You post at least like one video a week, right?
Yeah, every Sunday.
Every Sunday. All right, there you go. So,
Do you ever feel like you're gonna? Sorry, this is like a personal question. Do you ever feel like you're gonna run out of topics?
You know, a lot of people ask that, and it's like, I don't know. No, the answer is no, not anytime soon, because like usually I come up with something every couple days. I don't make everything that I have, so I've got like a folder of video ideas. Most of them probably won't ever happen, but there's enough to last like a year in there if I
Okay,
wanted
that's
to make
good.
all of them.
Wow.
So yeah.
All right, I guess we can fit like two more or like one more question in here. Post. 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 30 seconds. So it's almost over. So one will okay, I guess we'll just take our last one, but then we just call it a day. It's 11:30 here, almost. So it's fairly late. Question for Pishifat and Blue Dragon. I have a thought about. Have you ever like had a thought about leaving mapping? Like,
Yes, a lot of times and all the time. And I used to be a drama queen, so all the time I was like, okay, I give up. I hate everything. Boohoo. Goodbye. Quit. And then the next day I was mapping again because us is like that.
that's like
I actually.
every standard player. Like, oh, I'll just quit the game.
Yeah.
I'll just back a week later.
But actually quitting, I don't see myself doing that. I don't think, because also it's just like that. I'm not gonna quit soon. I know that. But still, if I suddenly lose interesting or have something else to do in my life, I'm gonna probably stay inactive. But I'll just keep mapping until I just lose that interest.
All right.
So yeah.
Well, I don't think I haven't done anything as dramatic as saying like I quit Osu forever. But I mean, like I have thought, oh man, mapping's kind of boring. But then I just took a break for a couple days and it's like, okay, I want to map something. It's more like whenever I'm mapping something and I don't have any ideas for what I want to make in the map, I think, oh, mapping sucks. Then I get an idea and it's like, oh, mapping's great. Hooray. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I guess we can call it a day. We have been live for 90 minutes, and I think we should run this up now. So, first of all, thank you very much, Pishifat and Blue Dragon, for participating in this podcast. It's been amazing. I myself,
Thanks for having me.
like I said, I might have not been the best host for this, but if in future, like if we have a mapping podcast, I know I might find a replacement because I don't know much about mapping. But if you want any updates regarding Circle Talk, you can make sure and follow our Twitter, which you can probably find down below under Pishifat as well. And also join our Discord server, which you should also... No, it's other side.
Oh.
Other side. Yeah, there, right there. And if you like want to have updates in general, you can also join our Discord server as well. Like I always ask for help, like help me find topics to talk about, like bullet points, questions, and stuff like that. Then you can also help us by joining the Discord server and reading the information there, because you can access a secret channel where you can help us. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.